thank you very much for that. I'm going to take that as another segue to push us to the final section that we're focusing on, which I just found completely fascinating, was a really key theme that came out of the student comments, that useful feedback to inform my progress included this idea of it being credible. I wouldn't have picked that in advance, but it's kind of great. And I think this really connects really strongly to the idea that you're mentioning here. Feedback is not just about what you've done, but about what you're going to do next. And if I'm going to take on advice about what I'm going to do next, I want to know that it's coming from a place that I can trust. So within that kind of credible section, and again, you've got that section in front of you, the definition from student comments is that feedback is relevant to students' professional futures, and it draws on multiple credible perspectives. Kind of tricky to unpick. So within the table itself, one of the tactics that subject coordinators set out was an opportunity to moderate feedback to ensure its relevance to learning, and doing that through peer feedback sessions, as well as giving some feedback do's and don'ts to tutors. Encouraging authentic feedback that's connected to real world, in inverted commas, always a weird term, or professional context. So where students hope to go. Why is this feedback relevant to me and this assignment? How can I link my understanding of this assignment to where I want to go? And finally, the idea that credible means triangulating between various different voices as well. So I wonder whether I can have a couple of comments from, I could kind of keep this conversation going for ages, but of course we're going to have to move on. Georgia, Kimberly, Valerie, what are your thoughts about credibility in feedback? Can you share with us some wisdom?
I guess the only thing I'd say is that a lot of the assignments I said are very industry-based. They're very practical problems. So therefore, when you give them feedback, it's very much related to a problem that they may come across in industry. I've got this one assignment in one of the subjects. I know all my subjects sound the same, but and in it, I've got this sort of, I like doing scenarios which are disasters, you know, something, all these things that went wrong, and then they have to unpick it and understand what they could have done. That was one of the ways that I pivoted the exam around when we went to online learning, because really the exam that you give in an exam room is quite different from the one that you might give online. And I felt it was better to change to a sort of a scenario. So it was a real life scenario, but basically everything went wrong, and they just loved the sort of almost the task of, they'd use the materials they were taught as to, this is how it should have been done, but they had to think about the whole semester's work and try and sort of say, well, this is how I would have done it. So I think they liked that standpoint, that they were the one trying to solve the problem. But also that it was very much related to something that possibly could go as badly wrong as as I described. It was just one disaster after another. So so those, putting your assignments into something from construction's point of view that's just very practical, that's the sort of things that we might learn. It just sort of helps probably in that sort of industry context, I think.
Yeah, the feedback is kind of like expertise around from people who are trying to handle that kind of a situation. Fantastic.
Yes, exactly. And then having a tutor who's also got some good industry experience and a good understanding of it, it just means that you can talk to them about the different things, and then they've got an opportunity then in their own tutorials to be talking about some sort of, from their own work experience as well. I just wanted to point, I'm really sorry, but I have to go a little bit earlier because I've got something that I have to get on to. So I'll still be here, but I just wanted to make people aware of why I'm disappearing.
All good. Thank you very much, Valerie. Much appreciated. Hooray. Georgia, Kimberly, did you have anything to add about credibility?
I think we mentioned a little bit about different angles. So you started that, Kate. I think that's probably essential for credibility. So industry, pedagogy, and peer-to-peer feedback in our case, I've mentioned it earlier. So I think triangulating between these three levels really helps get the balance, and it really helps students know what to do next. Peer-to-peer feedback, it's not easy. It has to be moderated or guided by the tutor. In a sense, the students are willing to communicate, but again, it's part of the teaching and learning process in our case. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and the rubric would be really central to that.
Yeah, moderation is, and moderation is another important component of design studio teaching. It's not only to make sure we get the marks right, but this is also an opportunity between teaching staff to discuss what realistic expectations are from students at this level. So this is when feedback gets formed, or how we approach providing feedback.
Yeah, fantastic, and an alignment too.
Yeah,
fabulous. Kimberly.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I do deal with a lot of practical applications in my subjects as well. Probably the one that's most difficult, though, is in my property investment subject. I do teach theory related to current events, and providing feedback in that, and it's a lot of it is the opinion of the students as they look forward into the future. Providing feedback in that area on those particular assignments is a little bit more difficult because because of the theoretical component. So it's just something to be aware of. Not necessarily, I don't necessarily have the answer for you, but it does become a little bit more difficult.
No, that's a fantastic flag and a good thing to think about. Okay, we're going to move on to the next section now, but I want to thank Val, who's already left us, but George and Kimberly, for your expertise and your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Indeed.
Lovely having you, or being here. Thanks.
Excellent. Hang around as much as you like. Otherwise, you've done your job.
Thank you.